My name is Katie Kent. I teach in the English and Women's and Gender Studies program here at Williams College. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how I handle the question of identity in the classroom, since a lot of the courses I teach deal with various kinds of identities and identifications, like sexuality, gender, race, class, etc. And the way I handle it can be somewhat controversial, and I'll explain that in a minute. But basically, on the first day of class in for instance, my American Genders, American Sexualities class, which is a course about the emergence of homosexuality as an identity at the turn of the 19th to 20th century, I tell students that they're not allowed to disclose their sexual identity or really any part of their identity until the end of the semester, when we'll have a coming out party and anyone who wants to can disclose whatever they want about themselves. And I do that for a couple of reasons. First of all, I don't want students to feel compelled to identify if they're still sort of thinking through their sexuality. I also do it so that any student can feel comfortable in the classroom regardless of how they identify. But I also do it for particular intellectual reasons. I tell the students that this is a course that investigates how identities are created, how they are performed not only through language but through silence or through other kinds of nonverbal means. And so I tell them that in order to investigate this, there are two important things to remember. One, people are not allowed to use their identity as a kind of automatic guarantor of truth. So they can't raise their hand and say, because I'm a lesbian, I know this is true. But they have to make a kind of persuasive argument based on the materials as opposed to just their personal experience. Also, that avoids the problem of students who aren't necessarily connected personally to the materials, at least in their own mind. It avoids them saying, well, I'm heterosexual, therefore I have nothing to say about this. Again, they have to take responsibility for contributing to conversation, regardless of their own identification. Now, people sometimes slip up, and that's okay. And my general sense, though, is that it makes students feel much more comfortable, that they don't feel they have to represent a particular group in the classroom, that they can really think through things in their own minds, without that pressure. And many times, especially queer students, are asked to represent themselves all the time. But by the end of the semester, when we have our coming out party, often students will disclose things that are completely unrelated to sexuality. They may say, you thought I was African American, but I identify as Latina. Or they may say, I love chocolate. Or they may do an interpretive dance. But by the end of the semester, they don't feel that same kind of nervousness and pressure that they do at the beginning. Now, the reason this is controversial is that some instructors feel that a classroom that, for instance, deals with issues of gender and sexuality should be the place where lesbian and gay students get to be themselves and, feel comfortable speaking out in ways that they wouldn't in other places in the academy. And I think that they can do that without necessarily speaking from their own experience at all moments. And I do give them the opportunity to write about their own experience and analyze it critically, but it's that critical thinking piece that I emphasize. So.